Hello, algebra. How are you? We are going to take and look at solving quadratics a different way, not by graphing, but by using a formula. So this is called the quadratic formula. We'll take questions on 9-3 in class. So as you are looking at the quadratic formula, we first need to look at the fact that we have quadratic equations. Remember, our quadratic equation is defined by our x squared. And anytime it is equal to 0, we have to find the solutions. Okay? So we're going to use this formula. Well, as we're doing this, the first thing we have to do is identify what my A, my B, and my C are. All right. So in this first equation, my A is -2 because it is with my x squared term. It is the coefficient that's in front of the x squared term. The coefficient that is in front of the x term is my B, and that's x. Okay? The coefficient that's in front of, or by itself, the constant, is your C term, and that's 1. Oh my goodness. What number's in front of that B? Not an X. What number's in front of that B? Oh, 1. Right? There's an imaginary 1 there. I'm sorry. I get so excited. All right, number 2. Number 2, I'm looking at my number that's in front of my x squared term. There's a 1 there, so that's my A. What's the number in front of my x term? It's a 7. What's the number in front of my, or that is my constant? It's a 12. All right, we're going to do this one in part 2. We're in class. All right, so to solve a quadratic polynomial, first, you're going to figure out and list A, B, and C. Okay? After we figure out what our A, B, and C are, we need to substitute those into the formula. We'll talk about what that is in a second. Our next step is to solve for all of our solutions or our x-intercepts. As you recall, those are our solutions from the last lesson. So, what is our quadratic formula, you ask? Well, here it is, right here. So, it is x equals opposite of b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can sing that song and it will help you remember it. Let's do it again. X equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so what are the keys to that? The keys are this opposite of, and the other key is all over, oops, that's not going to fit, all over 2a. So that line goes all the way underneath everything. Okay? Now, you're going to find your A, B, and C. You're going to plug them into the spaces labeled B, A's, and C's, and you're going to go from there. All right. Yours looks a little bit different because it doesn't have this plus or minus, but that said, this symbol is said plus or minus. All right, now that we've got our terminology taken care of, my first step, identify my A, my B, and my C. A equals what? B equals what? C equals what? So, in this number 4, what number's in front of that x squared? 1. What number's in front of the x? -8. And what number's the constant? 12. Okay. The more often you write the quadratic formula, the more often you're going to memorize it. Opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 all over 2a. I suggest writing it in there, and then I suggest doing your substitutions. So, what is my b? I defined what my b was. It was -8. What's the opposite of -8? +8 plus or minus the square root of b squared. What's b squared? -8 squared. That's always going to end up to be positive. Minus 4. What's a? 1. What's c? 12. Okay? All over 2. What's a is 1. All right. So now you've got to keep going. You've got to keep going. You've got to simplify. Now we have to use good order of operations. I'm not doing anything with the 8 plus or minus. Bring that down. I need to do what's underneath the square root sign first. -8 squared is going to be 64, because -8 times -8. Now, I would like you to use this as a -4. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times 12 is -48. Okay? All over 2a is 2. All right. Now I need to do my subtraction. So I'm going to get 8 plus or minus. 64 minus 48 is 4 over 2. So now here's what this plus or minus means. We're going to separate this. Okay. What do I mean by separate this? I'm going to do, I need to go one more step, because I can take the square root of 4. I'm so sorry. So since I can take the square root of 4, I can go one more step before I separate this. So I'm going to take that arrow away and put a different one in. 8 plus or minus, what's the square root of 4? 2 all over 2. Okay, now I'm going to separate that. So I'm going to get 8 plus 2 over 2, and I'm going to get 8 minus 2 over 2. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 divided by 2 equals 5. Okay? 8 minus 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So, my answers to my graph, if I were to look at my graph, this point here on the x-axis would be 3, and this point here would be 5 if I had it graphed. So x equals 3 and x equals 5. That is your answer. You did all that work to get to your answer. Okay, let's look at number 5. All right, I got rid of some of that so I could have some room. So what's my A in this case? It's 3. My B is 14. My C is -24. I already wrote x equals negative b plus or minus square root minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I got to substitute. Okay, opposite of b. b is 14, so negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 14 squared, okay, minus 4 times 3 times c is negative 24, okay, all over 2 times 3, because that's my a. Okay, I'm going to do some of this work. I would like you to pause your video and do some of this work and come back and check your work. Okay, you should have got the opposite of 14 plus or minus the square root of 196 plus 288. The 196 came from 14 squared. The 288 came from negative 4 times negative 3 times negative 24. Add those together, get 484. Now, how do I get that number? How do I figure out what that is? You need to look for this button on your calculator. So you're putting in the square root button, and then you're typing in 484, and then you're hitting equals. Okay? Square root button, 484 equals. Or sometimes, depending on the calculator, you might need to put the 484 in first, and then hit your square root button, and that'll be your equals. Okay? So that turns out to be 22. Then we have to separate. Negative 14 plus 22 divided by 6. 8 divided by 6, 4/3, or 1.3 repeating. And separate again. Negative 14 minus 22 divided by 6, negative 36 divided by 6. When I add those two together, that'll give me negative 6. So how do I write my answers? Well, my negative 6 is over here, and my 1.3 is over here, repeating. And I would just simply write down x equals 1.3 repeating, x equals 6. Make sure you have both answers if you get two answers. Okay? Remember, last class, we talked about possibly getting 0 answers or possibly getting 1 answer, okay? All right, number 6, I'm going to identify your A, B, and C, okay? Here's your quadratic again. What's your A, B, and C? Well, 1 is my A, B is my negative 12, C is my 20. I'd like you to try this one, okay? Pause the video, try it, come back. I'm going to write it out so that you've got it and know what it looks like. And then we're going to talk about number 8 and do 7 in class. So figure this out. Give this a try. All you're doing is substituting, but substitute well. Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. All right, really fast. This is what you got when you substituted. You should have got an answer of 10 and 2. X equals 10, x equals 2. Should have been your answers. Hopefully you got that and you know what you're doing. I'm going to look really quickly at the beginning of number 8, and we're going to finish that one in class. So let's go to that. 7 we'll do in class. 8 we're going to do here. Now, keep in mind, in the original ax squared plus bx plus c was equal to 0, not equal to 25. So this one I need to solve first. I need to subtract 25 from both sides. Can't combine that, so I'm going to get 10x squared minus 5x minus 25 equals 0. And then I'm going to do my quadratic with that. identify your A, B, and C. Give this one a try. Come to class with it done. See if you get the right answer. This one's going to be tricky. You're going to have a decimal. So God bless.